In this episode, we're going to be talking about business, smart drugs, life hacks, and general entrepreneurship. Today with me, I have Lucas, who's the co-founder and CEO of Alternoscript and Capital Peak Investments. Lucas is also the brains behind Optimind, a smart drug, which has been featured in Vice News, Small Business Trends, and tons of more stuff. So first off, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. So first, I got to ask, what got you started with smart drugs? How did you get involved in this industry?
So it's been a kind of a strange road to the path we're at right now. When you said the brains, I'm actually the co-founder of Optimind, so I'm 50% of the brains. But to get to nootropics, I mean, I've been taking nootropics for a long time. I took some in high school. I took them all through college. I took them as I was trading when I was doing securities and working with FinRun, doing all this stuff. And it's kind of been an evolution of experimentation leading to some kind of ethical boundaries of what I thought was intelligent use of smart drugs versus a dangerous use of smart drugs. And I've had a couple life lessons that have really steered me in the direction of taking nootropics versus taking things like Adderall or taking any kind of prescription stimulants just because how dangerous they can be.
I got to ask now, what were those lessons?
So I had a lot of my friends used Adderall or used any kind of prescription medications to get ahead. Either they didn't study or they wanted an extra edge in studying longer. I had one friend who was actually took stimulants a lot and took it for I think like multiple days in a row and ended up killing himself. And that was kind of a point where it was just kind of a wake-up call for me and I think a lot of our friends where, some people say, oh, you can't tie it to that 100%, you can't tie it to this 100%. There's so many factors that went into that. But for me, it was kind of, it was a reality check and a wake-up call on, I think using smart drugs as a tool is really smart, pun intended. But understanding the difference between cognitive enhancement as a tool and addiction is huge. And a lot of how the U.S. medical industries are set up right now, the way physicians are treating, certain things like ADD, there's a reason why America is a fraction of the world's population size, and I think we imported something around, and don't quote me on exactly what it is, but I think it's around 86% of all amphetamine salts in the world are consumed in the United States. So it's like, is ADD something that is only in the United States? Well, is obesity only in the United States, or is it because we eat shitty food? Mm-hmm. Is ADD only in the United States, or is it because our education system's broken? Parents are doing, pretty bad jobs at parenting, and teachers need to find a way to control kids that think differently. I think there's a lot of ways to look at it. And so my ethical boundaries on smart drugs, I own a company that produces thousands and thousands and thousands of bottles a week for smart drugs, but use it as a tool and use it as something that unleashes your mind mm-hmm. instead of masks it.
So obviously you're a huge fan of Optimind, but other than that, like what other kind of smart drugs do you like to use or do you recommend?
So I'm going to sound like a totally product flipping self-promoting douche right now, but I swear I'm not. Well, I think that I've taken a lot, and I've tried modafinil. a bunch of times. I think it's okay for using, for like trying to really enhance the math part of my brain.
Mm-hmm.
It's been good, but it does make me feel kind of like very tunnel vision. And if I'm not careful with it, I can get super angry and irritated. So anything in moderation, if you did it like, if I did it once every 2 months, I think it'd be fine. But I've really, as I've gotten older, and I'm not old by any means, but as I've gotten older, I've kind of realized that non-prescription and non-ultra stimulant smart drugs really work better for me because, of course, I like the short-term boost that they give me, but if there's no long-term cognitive enhancement, then a lot of that short-term boost I can get from things like, caffeine with theanine and things like that kind of offset it. Amino acids I can get by actually sleeping. Certain amounts I can get by short sprints and exercise. Like if I don't run, my energy levels plummet. So pretty much everyone I've talked to, including Dave Asprey, the founder of Bulletproof Coffee, like we had a conversation about, what are smart drugs? Are they psychoactive? Are they prescription? Are they nootropics? I like to use the word cognitive enhancers because, first of all, it doesn't sound as terrifying. Second of all, is because what's the whole reason why you would take smart drugs? It's to enhance your mind. It's to make yourself think better. And it's to give yourself a competitive edge in life. So I think cognitive enhancers and cognitive enhancement is a better fit.
Would you call yourself, outside of the smart drugs, would you call yourself like a life hacker in general, or not really?
Yeah,
What are some
I like to.
What are some of the other things that you've done? Because you talked about, you need to run every day. What are some of the other things you've done that you find really helps you with performance? And just really quick for the audience, Lucas, I mean, you could tell a little bit about what you're doing, but it's pretty impressive. You've done a lot of really great business things. So I'm curious for myself to learn what kind of things you're doing to help improve your productivity outside of the drugs and the running.
So this is going to sound a little kooky, but I guess that's kind of the definition of life hacks. I use stage lighting when I'm working, and under certain times when I'm working at night, I've got these huge stage lights that shine this incredibly, incredibly powerful light that totally makes any room feel like daylight.
That's interesting.
And so I'll just shine it when I'm working at night, even when I'm working during the day, if it's a cloudy day. And that just has a huge impact on my productivity. Other things I'll do, like I'll use those stage lights when I'm napping. Like if I take a 10-minute nap and I need to wake up, I keep the stage lights by my bed and flip them on, set an alarm and then just flip them on. And, other hacks, Optimind itself, I think is a huge hack. Like if you're not taking, this is kind of like my one-liner for people that are just avid coffee drinkers. I'm like, look, if you're taking something that's simply coffee for cognitive enhancement, you're using a completely archaic method to make yourself better. Coffee's cute and it tastes good sometimes when you coat it with cream and sugar. But if that's the only thing you're doing to make your brain work better, then you're really like thousands of years behind.
What does your morning routine look like?
I've got a full glass of water by my bed. I've got 2 full glasses of water, one that I drink during the night, and then one that I drink in the morning. The second I wake up, I set my alarm like 45 minutes before I have to actually wake up. And I've got 2 pills of Optimind. I take them, chug a full glass of water, and then go back to bed. And that, like, the Optimind naturally wakes me up, because Optimind's got two with 2 capsules, it's a cup of coffee worth of caffeine. So it wakes you up. Let's see, what else do I do in the morning? I like to, here's a life hack that I think is really easy to do. Before you wake up in the morning, think about why you're waking up in the morning. And if you don't have a good answer, then don't get up until you do. Okay, or quit your job.
Yeah.
So think about why you're doing what you're doing, and then think about what you're doing, exactly what you want to accomplish that day, and then ask yourself, does this matter? Because so much of what we do might seem like it matters, but it's really just and Tim Ferriss describes this perfectly, where he's like, busy is lazy. Now, I think that's partially true, but you can be busy doing great stuff. But if you don't have the cognitive discipline to ask yourself, is what I'm doing actually important to the bottom line? If I don't do this, am I going to be really pissed off in a week or a day?
That's really interesting. That's something I've been trying to do more in my life, is figure out, all right, is this actually important, or am I just doing this because I feel like I should,
Totally.
It makes a huge difference. I actually recently been sitting down, like writing out the list of things that I want to do, and I look at them and I'm like, well, I can tell this one right here has the potential to be huge, and the thing that I was planning on doing, best case scenario, it's like, maybe I'll make an extra $1,000, like not a huge difference. So, I like that.
Here's another life hack. So we've got a team. Our company grew from just Matthew and I in my parents' basement. Matthew Piscors is my business partner. To us on a beach in Vietnam, fresh out of college, quit our jobs, building websites, trying to get it off the ground. Now we've got about an 11 to 18 person team, depending on how you look at it. A huge life hack for me is thinking about my team as an extension of myself. And there's so much of everything that you do during your day, do you physically have to do it? So not only should I do it and does it matter, but do I physically have to do it? And ideally, when I'm working, with my team, everyone is better at me at whatever it is they're doing. Because if they're doing something that I could do better than them, then they're probably not that good. Right?
Yeah.
Or if it's an extension of myself, it's a bad one.
Yeah.
So, a huge life hack for us has been hire really smart, driven people. And not just smart and not just driven. Really smart, driven people.
How do you test for that, like when you're hiring them? Because that's something I've had a problem with, is we've hired a lot of people that seem good in the interview, but then a few months into it, we realize, oh crap, this isn't a great person.
Yeah, that's really tough, and I'm trying to figure that out. We do personality tests on everyone that works with us.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a specific, have you ever heard of the True Colors test?
Yep.
So True Colors test is based off of Myers-Briggs research. But Myers-Briggs has got so many different variables that you'd have to spend a lot of time researching, and it's hard to say like, oh, he's an ENTJ.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little bit more difficult. True Colors test is really like a dumbed down version of the Myers-Briggs. And so when I'm hiring, if I need someone creative and outgoing, I'll go for like an orange, a lot of orange. When we've got doing customer service work, I get orange and blues. Blues have a lot of empathy. What the people who everyone executes in our office, but the people who like click the final submit button have golds in them, which is one of the 4 colors. And golds are people that if you give them a definitive path and purpose, they crush it. So like, I'm doing everything I can. Right now we've got a little bit, we need more golds. So that's a helpful way of doing it, but it's really tough. We're working right now on, there's a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I try and read it like every 6 months.
Great
I
book.
don't.
It got me my
I
first
try to.
job, I'm pretty sure. Like I read that book
Nice.
like right when I'm doing all my interviews and everything, and I even dropped a line about it in my interview. The person interviewing me was like, "Oh my God, I love that book too." If you guys haven't read that book, listening, definitely recommend it.
Yeah, it's the number one most important business book I've ever read. It's the number one most important life book I've ever read. And sometimes in the office, like I'll say something that's just totally rude, and Matthew will look at me and be like, "You just broke a Dale Carnegie principle." And sometimes I'll be like, "Damn it, I did." Or sometimes I'll say the same to him. It's probably less often, but um, yeah, everyone should read. If you're above the age of 16 and you haven't read the Dale Carnegie book, you're at a critical disadvantage.
Completely agree. So let's get back to starting a business because I know a lot of the listeners out there want to start a business. So do you have any recommendations on how to come up with a good idea? Because you guys have stumbled upon a pretty killer idea. So do you have any recommendations for that?
A/B test.
Okay.
We love A/B testing. It's um, coming up with a good idea. It, Ideas are cheap. Um, a lot of people have good ideas. And how many people think that they came up with the idea for Google? Like, really? A lot. Um, implement Being able to implement ideas is the difficult part. Um, so if anyone here wants to start a business, first thing I would do is pay the $50 or go online and get a free one, and take a full Myers-Briggs personality test to understand what you're good at naturally and what you're bad at naturally. Because if you're trying to run a business and you don't know what you're good at, then I don't know what you're even thinking. Um, so much of So I gave a speech at, I hate to sound like an Ivy elitist, but I went to state school, so I could say it. I gave a speech at Harvard last February about, at the business school, about one of the biggest biohacks I've ever had was learning how my brain worked. Because if you understand, there's so many variables and things that make you who you are, and if you can understand who you are and who you aren't, then you can work with people that can compensate for where you really suck.
So as an example, how does your brain work and like how have you used that to benefit you?
So let's say the true colors test. There's green, mathematical, quanti. There's orange, outgoing, starting new stuff, social. Blue, empathy, and gold is just finishing tasks, very organized and structured, and need structure to succeed. I found out that I am a green primary, which is quanti and mathy, and orange secondary, which is outgoing. So I realized, well, I'm going to have a bunch of outgoing quantish ideas, but no one's going to execute them.
Okay.
Um,
So your partner, I assume, helps you to execute them? Is that how it came about?
Yeah, he's got a ton of gold in him, and is like, I can say, like, Matt, I envision this beautiful screen filled with ones and zeros that can correlate conversion rates by source, by month, all in a great little, something, and it just magically gets executed. And so, I don't remember what your question was. How do I use it? I figure out what I'm not and surround myself with people that are the best at the colors that I lack in.
Very cool. So we've kind of covered how someone could come up with an idea, figure out what they're good at, and something I feel like you do very well is the actual implementation as far as moving forward. I know you're not necessarily a gold, but do you have any advice, like once someone has that idea, they have an idea of what they're good at, how do they take the next steps to actually get something completed?
Yeah, so there's a book that I wish I read earlier in when I was starting my business, and it's by David Heimler Hansen, and I'm trying to remember. Rework is what it's called. Rework by David Heimler Hansen. If you're going to try and start a business, you should read this book.
Okay.
I remember I was like driving up to Vail and listening to it on tape, or not on tape. No one has a tape anymore.
MP3
I was,
player or something.
yeah, no one really has that anymore either. Well, I was listening to it on Audible and um, just laughing to myself because I was like, holy shit, I just learned this like from screwing up so many times. And it just kept happening and happening and happening where I was like, I've screwed this up like 7 times. Why am I just listening to this now? Like, but so yeah, read Rework, get an MVP. So we've got a lingo in our office, which a lot of tech companies use, which is like MVP1, MVP2, MVP3, minimum viable product. Get something out there, even if it's not your best work, and gauge market reactions. And that will tell you what you can do better. Like we've changed the Optimind formula a bunch of times to make it better. We have changed our websites a ton of times. We're launching new software, and we're getting beta users. We've got a new software called Retention Point, and we've got a big wait list for the beta that's coming out. And you launch something to get feedback because so many people are afraid. They'll load the gun and they'll aim it at the target, and then they'll be afraid of pulling the trigger because what if they miss? And like if you're afraid of failing, then you're never really going to succeed.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
And that's a quote I just stole from someone who's a lot more famous than me, but I can't remember who said it and I can't remember how they said it. So
Fair enough. So let's kind of go into some of the more advanced stuff because it seems like we're both very interested in e-commerce. And obviously, I don't want you to give away any secrets, but what have you found that's worked for getting people to your website and actually creating sales? Is there anything that's really stood out?
okay, so I've read this guy Perry Marshall is one of my internet gurus. Um, he's so freaking smart, it's ridiculous. But he has this book. He wrote The Ultimate Guide to Google AdWords. He also wrote The Ultimate Guide to Facebook Advertising. I've read both of these books like 4 times. Like
Also,
he's
80/20
really smart.
sales and marketing, which is pretty good. Yeah.
Exactly. He wrote that one too. That's a good one. Um, I love talking to people that know what I'm talking about. It's so sweet.
So AdWords is a big thing that you recommend, it sounds like?
Well, so he talks about any website. Do you remember, back before we had coal burning, we had all of our factories on the riverside. And the reason is because there was those little wheels that you see that were spinning the factory and turning it and powering it so that all the machines were attached to that. Think of a website as a wheel, and it can either turn or not turn. So you can have the best website in the world, which is this wheel, but if you don't have any water going through it, then you've just got a really nice wheel and it's just sitting there. Every website has a purpose. You're either trying to get subscribers, you're trying to get email lists on e-commerce, you're trying to get them to check out. You got to check out your conversion rate and do conversion rate optimization. The higher conversion rate your website, whatever you're trying to get them to do, means the better your wheel is. And the stronger the water is, that's your traffic. So you can have, there's different components of traffic. There's volume of traffic. You want to get a ton of people to the site, but you want to get really the right people to the site and a ton of the right people to your website. So thinking about it that way, if you get a website up and you start driving traffic to it and you're like, well, what the hell? Why am I not getting any sales? You can be like, well, hold on. Do I have a good wheel? Is my website conversion rate optimized? Take into account things like most people don't scroll below the fold. You need to have, and Tim Ash has written a great book on landing page optimization, and there's a bunch of blogs and articles. There's a specific formula. Use Unbounce. Unbounce is a great resource for building mobily responsive, simple landing pages. Know the difference between a landing page and a website. So if you're not getting a lot of sales, you're not getting a lot of people subscribing, say, look, does my traffic suck or does my website suck or do they both suck? And that's a simple way to diagnose the problem.
One thing you guys have done really well is being featured on other websites, and I don't know if it would be counted as guest blogging per se, but I've seen your guys' stuff all over the internet. How have you made those connections, and how would you recommend someone else replicate your success with that?
So that's a pain, I got to tell you.
Okay.
There's like the affiliate world. So like there's this whole world of digital marketers that anyone can buy traffic. Establishing relationships with bloggers is hard, and it's kind of our secret weapon because everyone's too lazy to do it. And I actually like meeting the bloggers.
Yeah.
Like there's tons of bloggers who are super cool and really smart. So we have we use a platform called GroupHigh.
Mm-hmm.
And GroupHigh basically, it's out of Boulder, Colorado, where I'm from. GroupHigh basically scrapes the entire web for every single blog. And it finds what each blog is talking about. So like, let's say I was looking for a blog that was talking about nootropics. I can search through GroupHigh. GroupHigh scrapes the world in every single blog and says, okay, here's 5,000 bloggers talking about nootropics. Here's all their contact info.
Wow, so it gives you the contact info and everything. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, and you can email them straight through GroupHigh.
Wow, okay.
So that's a really good way. We do specific content promotion strategies that I think are really smart. And a guy named Marty Weintraub taught me them, who's a really funny, quirky guy, but a digital marketing genius. If you're writing a blog article on meditation for young professionals or something,
Mm-hmm.
Write it and blast it on Facebook using Facebook's targeting to people who like meditation and are young and like Forbes. You can't get better targeting. So like the article has to be really good. So the wheel has got to be great.
Mm-hmm.
It's about meditation and being a young professional. And your water gets super targeted, great traffic to go into the wheel. And that's once you do that, the other thing you can do is if you're writing an article about meditation, blast that article to people who like blogging, and like meditation.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about link building? Holy smokes. You're putting your article in front of a bunch of bloggers who like meditation. Of course they're going to link to you.
Yep.
And you can do that with a million different things. So those are just some of the tips and tools that we use.
And I feel like we could talk about this forever, but I know you're a very busy guy, so I want to kind of wrap things up here a little bit. But my last question for you, and it's a tough question, but what advice do you have for the 20-somethings listening to this podcast? Anything that you'd say, I think, whatever, this is some good advice for you guys.
I've mentioned a lot about personality tests, and people think that I'm obsessed with it, but whatever. So I've already said that. I remember in college, everyone would say to me, Like, oh, have fun. Oh, have fun. You're in college. You're in college. Why are you, working and, drinking a glass of wine at 2 a.m. on a Friday night, writing stuff on your whiteboard? Like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, well, hold on. This is my time to learn without worrying about income.
Mm-hmm.
Um, while you're in your 20s, it should be your personal mission to get as much knowledge and targeted knowledge as humanly possible, because you're basically loading your own gun. And you can have a full clip, or you can have 3 bullets in there. And your 20s is where you load your mental gun. And so I would say take the time to explore your skill sets and get really great at stuff.
I love it. Lucas, where can people find out more about you?
So they can go on to lucassiegel.com. I've got a blog. I do some posts like how to name your product and cool stuff like that. You can go into Optimind, getoptimind.com, or just Google Optimind. Probably some of our horrible competitors are trying to poach our keywords, but that's fine. You'll see us, we're everywhere. And you can find me, if you go to my website, lucassiegel.com, or just Google Lucas Siegel, you can reach out to me on Facebook or LinkedIn or anything you want.
Cool. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. And if you did, make sure you hit the big red subscribe button down below. You can also check me out on Facebook and on Twitter. And I release a new video every Monday. And by hitting that subscribe button, you'll get those new videos every Monday. And this is really a podcast. It's also a website. You can check out the website. It's howtodoyour20s.com. I'll put a link right over here as well. And what it's all about is trying to improve your life. And we specifically focus on things that people in their 20s are interested in. So make sure you like the video if you liked it. Subscribe. Like us on Facebook and Twitter, whatever. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you again on another video.